Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. Today we will continue our lab, the transformers. This is the 34th video. In the previous video we have been discussing or we have been continuing working with the documentation which is called Active Directory Security Assessment. This is a documentation submitted by a user called Hiyuka from a website called Cyber Security Hub. This site is on the LinkedIn platform. Okay, this documentation is a best practice for most of the system administrators using Active Directory. It is some best practice for how to back up your Active Directory and some best security practices concerning some how to set up some group policies on your Active Directory and your domain controllers to harden your domain controllers. Okay, I mean by hardening, just to make the security more tougher and not easier for anyone to hack or to be much difficult to hack or something. Okay, so we have been discussing this documentation for about 3 videos now. In the previous video we have been continue working with this documentation, and we have discussed before also how to back up your event logs. We have said before that an event log is very important, or event logs are a critical element, or is a critical element of any Windows operating system. The event log, it is the place that where all of the activity of the Windows is recorded. It is divided to 3 parts. As I said before, it's one part for the application. Any application installed on Windows, it is recorded in this section in the event log, which is the application log, and then there is the security log, which is another section of the events that the Windows record every process related to the user, or every process related to a security event. Which I mean, for example, if a user have logged into the workstation or the domain controller, this event is recorded in the security log. For example, if you have changed the rights for a certain user or a certain group, this is also recorded in the security section in the event log. And for example, if you are auditing, or you have, for example, activate an audit option on a certain folder in the domain controller, this is also recorded in the security event or the security log section in the event log. And least or but not last, it is the system log, which if any problem happens to the window or the Windows operating system, it is recorded in the system log in the event log. And we have discussed before in the previous video how to back up these event logs using a script. Okay, and how to automate this process through using the task scheduler in the Windows operating system. And it's also a very critical point for any IT. We have said before, there is 2 critical points for any IT to consider when working in the IT environment or IT field, is to have always to have a backup plan and always to have a security plan. And the third one is always to revise the event log. This is the third point that you should take into consideration when working as an IT. You should revise your event logs for any operating system, but let it be specific to your domain controllers or your servers in specific, to see if there is any abnormal activity or any errors that appears in your system. As I said before, the security or the event log consists of 3 parts: application log, security log, event logs, security logs, system logs. Okay, and we have said before each part what does it held, or in which part, or for example, in the application section, this logs, it's considered any application installed on the Windows. For example, if I have an Adobe or have any other application, if there is any error appearing from this software, it will be recorded in the application log in the event log. So as an IT, you should revise your event logs for all of your servers at least once a month. Okay, so we have said in the previous video, I said before, we have set up a script and automate it to take up all of our event logs, or to back up all of our event logs. Okay, and we have continued working with the ADSA document, and at the end of the video we have installed a software called StarWind Virtual SAN. Okay, this software, as I said before, it is responsible for simulating a tape drive. Okay, as I said before, we are in a production environment. When you are back up your data and your user shares and documents, we don't back it up on a DVD or a CD or external hard disk. Some IT prefer to use an external hard disk, for example, or a DVD, but in a real production environment, or most of the IT use something called tape drive. We back up our data on tape drives. Okay, and I have showed you before in the previous video what does this, or what is the shape of this tape drive and how we can use it. So at the end of the previous video, we have installed StarWind Virtual SAN. This program simulates a tape drive, and we will use this tape drive to set up our first backup job on BackupExec Veritas 20.6. Okay, so we will make our backup job to be backed up on a tape drive after of course installing the StarWind Virtual SAN. So it will simulate our tape drive, and after that we will tell the BackupExec or the BackupExec will see this virtual tape drive, and then we will tell him to back up our job on this tape drive. So let's begin, or let's continue. In our previous video we have stopped at the step of installing the Virtual SAN program, and then we will now install the virtual tape drive. Okay, there is a documentation for this for the steps. I have already included it in the Transformers folder, which it will be on a Google Drive link. I will put it in the description section under the video that I will upload on my YouTube channel. Okay, so let's begin. Here we will continue also in this lab working with the Active Directory Security Assessment PDF, and also we will begin now installing the virtual tape drive. Okay, so if you need to know more, please refer to my previous video. So now we'll open the VM Workstation Pro and power on our two domain controllers, virtual machines. Okay, I can bust it quickly. Okay, so now I have a problem with the space, because all of these virtual machines are on my hard disk of the laptop, which is only 1 tera, so I need to have some more space. So I am just deleting some virtual machines to have more space. Okay, also in the previous video, as I said before, I have already added another hard disk which is with 100 gigabyte on the domain controller that contains my BackupExec software. Okay, for the backup solution, just to put the virtual tape drive on it. Okay, because the virtual tape drive needs an extra space. Okay, so here I'm just deleting some virtual machines. This is an old virtual machine that I have been used when I was working with the Captive Portal guest solution. This is also another video. If you need to know more, please refer to it. Okay, so I'm deleting some virtual machines to have some space. So here I will delete also another virtual machine. So if you want to delete a virtual machine, you have first to delete it from the folder that contains it, like I'm doing now, and then you remove it from the software. Okay, so here I'm deleting all of the files for the virtual machine, and then I go to the software and right click and tell him to remove. Okay, here I'm just checking the space for every virtual machine to see if I can delete which one of them, but now I have some free space now available, so I am now powering on the first domain controller. So it's powered on. Then we'll power on the second domain controller. As I said before, I have already added a new hard disk to this domain controller to make it, or to create the virtual tape drive on it. Okay, as I have said before, what is a tape drive, what is a virtual tape drive, and what is the tape drive device itself. All of this in the previous video, please refer to it to know more. So now we log in with our domain controller user. I have a domain controller named Rauf. He is the domain admin of the Active Directory. So now we have logged into the second domain controller. Okay, and we have also logged into the first domain controller. Here we can see that this is the new hard disk. I will make it online. Okay, and then initialize it. Okay, initialize the disk. Okay, and tell him okay. So the disk will be available for me, so I can after that create a new partition, so I can use this partition to put my virtual tape drive on it. Okay, this is simple process. I tell him to name the drive as F. Okay, this will be called the drive F, and tell him next, and then we'll format it as NTFS, and we name this volume virtual tape library. Okay, and then finish. So now we have it available. We have another driver, or another volume appeared. We have the C drive, which contains the operating system, the D, which contains the user shares and folders and data, and the F drive, which will contain the virtual tape drive. Okay, so now here is the steps on how to create a virtual tape drive. We will open the software for StarWind. Here you go. This is the software, and this also is here. First of all, we need to add the server. We'll tell him add. Okay, here, just a minute. You can get a little bit further. When we tell him to add the server, we need to add the domain controller here. Okay, we will add the domain controller IP address, okay, to this software. Okay, so here it's telling us that this software, sorry, the IP for the server that it will add. As I said before, we need to add the IP of the domain controller number 2 in this field. Okay, but actually this IP 127.0.0.1, this is the IP, can work, or this is the IP of the server. Okay, if you tell him to do that, he will add the second domain controller. Okay, this is the local IP address of the domain controller. Okay, anyway, just if he tells you this IP address, tell him okay, he will add the second domain controller to the software of StarWind, okay? Because we need, after we add this server, or if we add our second domain controller to the software of StarWind, we will begin creating on it the virtual tape drive, okay? So after that, we need to tell him to connect. He has added our server with the name, okay? And then we need to tell him to connect, okay? So now it has been connected. Here, just a minute. It's saying the storage pool is not configured. Here is the storage pool. This is the place that we will put our virtual tape drive, and also this software is not only used for creating virtual tape drive, but you can create something called virtual SAN, okay, or virtual cluster SAN, okay. I can discuss it later, but we just need to know that this is storage pool. This is the place that we will put our virtual tape drive, okay. We'll put it on the F drive that we have created, F drive or F volume that we have created from a couple of seconds, okay. So this is storage place. You can create a virtual SAN, okay, or a virtual tape drive, okay. So we tell him to put it on the F. Now right click and tell him to add device advanced, okay. Tell him we will add a tape drive, okay. Then we will create a virtual tape, okay. Here we tell him to create the virtual tape library. Here is the place where the virtual tape will be, okay. So you tell him to create it on my computer on the F drive, okay, or the F volume. So tell him next. Then this is the model, okay. This is the model for the tape drive. It's HP MSL8096 LTO8, I think, okay. If we can have a look here on the tape drive just to revise, okay. Tape drive, here we can see this is the, let's tell him also HP tape drive. Okay, here is the HP tape drive looks like, okay. Let's get it more closer, okay. Let's get also the model HP MS L8096, sorry, 8096 tape drive. Okay, let's have also look what is the tape drive looks like. MSL8096 MSL80. Okay, here is the tape drive. This contains not only one slot. It contains 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Here we will put 8 tape drives, okay. So here the software of StarWind is simulating this device, okay. This is the tape drive, how it looks like. It contains 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. This is the tape drive, okay, that we will simulate. And here is the what will be inserted in this device. Here we go. This is the tape. This is how it looks like, okay. This tape it can be, or it could be, until 6 terabyte. Okay, this is 3 terabyte. In some production environments, this tape maybe contain data to 6 terabyte. Okay, so here we are simulating this model, or just simulating it and telling the backup, when we use the BackupExec, that we will the BackupExec Veritas 20.6 will see this device. He will recognize that there is an HP tape drive. This model contains 8 tapes in it. Okay, we will see this when we install it, and we'll see how it will work. Okay. Okay, let's here they have this option. It tells him to fill storage slots with empty tapes after create. So here, as I said before, this device contains 8 slots, empty slots. In every slot it will contain a tape. So I am telling him, after creating this device, please insert an empty tape in every slot. So we will have 8 tapes in this device. And also, when we open the BackupExec 20.6 Veritas, you will see that we have 6 tapes appearing, 8 tapes appearing for us. So why using 8 tapes? So after finishing you don't need every time to put, after the backup job finish, you need to go and get the recorded tape and put another empty tape. No, if you have 8 tapes, then after finishing the first tape recording, he will go to the second tape recording, and then he will go to the third tape recording. Okay, so after you finish the 8 tapes recorded, you can then remove all of the 8 tapes and put another 8 empty tapes, and so on. Okay, so let's begin. Okay, this is the tape name. It will be VTL1. This is the name of the tape drive. Okay, and target name, you need to copy. We'll select this one and copy this. You need to copy this, and I'll tell you why. Okay, we will copy this and tell him next. He will begin creating the tape drive. So now we have already our tape drive created. So we don't need to create tapes because it had already created 8 tapes for us. We don't need to do this step because it had already created the tapes for us. So we can pass this step ahead. So just a minute. So here, after installing or creating the virtual tape drive, we need to go to the device manager and see if we have the model HP MSL 8096 tape drive device appearing in the device manager. Okay, so here I am just adding the device manager to my console. As I said before, this way, I said before, if you need to work with multiple things in the Windows in one console or in one window, as we said, for example, if you need to go to the disk management, you need to open start and then go, you need to open start and then go to control panel and then go to the disk administrative tools and then disk management. You have to do this every time you need to have something to open. You need to go this and then open this. This is a lot of wasted time. I need, for example, to have one window that contains all of these types. Okay, or what I need to work with. So for example, here in my console, I have the Active Directory added, the DNS added, the group policy added. What I did, that I'm opening an empty console window. It doesn't contain anything, and then I begin adding the things that I need to work with. For example, I am adding the Active Directory console, and then the DNS, the group policy, the HSP, server management, resource manager, the WINS, the disk management, event viewer, services, all the things I need, the task scheduler. So instead of going to start then administrative control panel, then administrative tools, then device manager, no, I will just tell him file and then add or remove snap in, and then I will add my device manager, so I can manage it from here. Okay. Tell him add, then okay. So now we have added the device manager. When we click on here, we should see the HPMS 8096 here somewhere, but actually it didn't appear. You need to restart the server and then install the drivers for the HPMSL 8096 tape drive. Actually it doesn't mean that even though the software have created the tape drive, but it didn't put the drivers for it. Okay, let's have it a little bit also. Let's go back. First of all, when we tell the StarWind to create the virtual tape drive and give it the model of HPMSL 8096, it had already created the tape drive, but it didn't install the tape drive devices, the drivers for this tape drive. Okay, every device in the Windows should have a Windows driver for it. Okay, so what happens that it has already created the tape driver device, okay, but it didn't install the Windows drivers for it. Okay, so we need to install the Windows first. You need to restart the server and then install the Windows drivers for the HPMSL 8096 tape drive. Okay, before that we need to go to the something called MSI SCSI initiator. Okay, we will go there and tell him to connect to the tape drive. Okay, connect to the tape drive that we have done. How we will do this? We will do this now with this way. Okay, just wait for a second and I'll show you how to do this. We will open control panel and then administrative tool and then MSI SCSI initiator. Okay, before installing the Windows drivers for the tape drive, we need first to make the Windows connect to this device. Okay, through the iSCSI initiator, we'll go to discover and then tell him, just a minute, remove this one. Okay, we'll tell him discover portal. Okay, we'll tell him the discover portal, and then we'll put the IP address of our server, which is also the IP address of the tape drive. Okay, it's 192.168.2.9. okay, here you go. And then we will go to targets tab. So now we'll go to the targets. Here we can see that he has connected to our tape drive. Okay, now this is the name of the tape drive. We'll tell him to connect. Okay, because it's inactive, we'll tell him to connect. Okay, so now in steps, the StarWind have created the virtual tape drive, and then we need to tell the Windows to connect to this tape drive. Okay, through the iSCSI initiator, and then we will restart the server, and then we will begin installing the Windows drivers for the tape drive, which is HPMSL 8096. Okay, this is in order. Okay, now I'm trying to make a hardware scan to see if I can see the HP MSL 8096 tape drive, but it's not there. You need to go to the internet and get the Windows drivers for this model and then install it on the domain controller. Okay, so you can see you need to see this one, okay, as a tape drive, but here I don't have the device, the Windows device, the Windows drivers for this model. So I will go to the internet and then get these Windows drivers and install it. Okay, so because I don't have a lot of memory and CPU, okay, so I will just close or shut down the server or the domain controller and then go to the internet and get the drivers, because actually, as I said before, I have a limited resources from the hardware. So if, for example, I am working now with 2 virtual machines, if I open the browser and try to access the internet, the whole laptop will begin hanging. So I need to close one of these virtual machines, get to the internet and get the Windows drivers for the HP model driver tape drive, and then I can go again and power on again the second domain controller and begin installing the Windows drivers, okay, for this device. So I'm trying to make a scan for hardware to see if I can see the tape drive, but still it needs okay, it is in other. Just a minute here, I can go there for a second thing. Here it goes. Here is the other devices. This is the place where the drivers of this is the device of HP MS L8096. These are the devices. It's not recognized. It needs the Windows drivers for it to work. Okay, for example, here if we open this, we will see that it contains the HP tape drive as a device, but it's not recognized by Windows because it needs the Windows drivers to be installed. So you can just pause it quickly. You can pause it very quickly. Okay. Okay, sorry. All of this is not needed. Okay, I'm shutting down as I said before, I'm shutting down the domain controller. Then I will go to the internet and get the HP MSL 8096 tape drive Windows drivers. Okay. So now I'm going to HP website, to get the drivers. Okay, okay, this is the one. But this is the firmware. Okay, it's not the one that I need. Okay, I'm telling him to get the drivers. Okay, okay, here you go. Okay, and tell him to get the Windows drivers. Here you go. This is the Windows drivers for the tape drive. Okay, can tell him to obtain the software. Then we will save the Windows drivers. I will also put it in the transformers folder. As I said before, I will put the whole content of this folder on a Google Drive link in the description section under the video. This is the firmware, we don't need it. So now we will go again and power on the second domain controller. As I said before, I have done this step only because I don't have a lot of RAM and processor, so I need the lab to work perfectly without hanging. So I need to first close the domain controller and then go to the internet and get the driver. Okay, here you go. Just a minute. Again. Here we can see that when we open the device manager, just a minute, and then on the other devices, okay, here we can see that these are the devices. This is the HP MSL8096 tape drive. Okay, these are the devices, but they are not recognized because the Windows drivers for it is not still installed. So I will install the drivers for these devices so the Windows can see the HP MSL8096 tape drive. Okay. So I'm now installing installing the tape driver, the tape device Windows drivers. So I tell him to install. When I tell him to install, he tells me that it is not supported for the virtualized. It's not support for virtualization. Okay, to work with VM Workstation Pro or any virtual platform. Okay, so just to overcome this problem, we tell him to extract the drivers. We'll see that now in a moment. So I'll not tell him to install, I tell him to extract the drivers, the Windows drivers on a folder. Okay, here I make a folder and name it tape drivers, for example, or something like this, drivers, and then we will extract the drivers in this folder. Okay, now extracting the drivers for the HP MSL 8096 tape drive. Now we will go to the device manager and tell him to update, right click and then tell him update driver, and we will go to the folder that you have created for a couple of seconds. Okay, browse. And then the D and then the drivers. Okay, and tell him next. So now he's installing the driver. Now it's held packer. Okay, this is the driver, it's correct one, and we can see here that tape drives, it's appearing as a tape drive. Update drive, next, finish. Okay, and then update drive, and then finish. So now we have already the tape drivers appearing. Okay, they are Hamilton Packer HP. So now we can go to the BackupExec Veritas 20.6 and then begin creating our first or two backup jobs as a start to backup our Active Directory. Okay, so now we'll open the Veritas BackupExec. See, now if you go to the storage, okay, you will see that we have 8 tapes, okay, available for us to record on it. Okay, you can tell him to do not show this message. Okay, close. Storage. Here we can see that we have 4 tape drivers. Okay, and we have here in this 4 we have 8 tapes available. Okay, for every device we can see that we have We will see that now when open the storage and see the slots. We have 8 slots. Okay, in these 4 tape drives we have 8 slots. Okay, I mean for every one it contains 2 slots. Okay, here you can see that in the slots we can see that we have 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. We have 8 slots. Every one contains a tape drive. Okay, contains a tape drive. I mean a tape drive here, we as said before, we have a tape that can hold the data up to 6 terabyte. Okay, so now we'll begin creating our 2 backup jobs. Okay, I will create 2 backup jobs and I will backup them to a tape drive. We will back it here to a tape drive. So we will backup first our first domain controller. Just we have to have for a second. This is the first domain controller and I can see it in my BackupExec Veritas console. Okay, as I said before, if to be able to see your server from the BackupExec console, you need to have the BackupExec agent installed on the server, and we have done this in a previous video. So now I will right click on the server and then begin my first backup job to backup the domain controller number 1. We will backup its system state. As I said before, system state is a couple of files that is very important for any operating system to work perfectly. So we will backup this system state for the first domain controller, and then we'll backup 2 folders or a couple of folders on the domain controller. In a previous video I have done a backup for the DHCP, so we will put it on our backup job. We will backup the DHCP folder that contains the backup of the configuration of the DHCP server and then we will backup the backup event logs. This is also we have done in a previous video. This is folder that contains all of the logs for the domain controller, so we back it up. And as I said before, we'll back up the DHCP and the system state. So this will be our first backup job for our first domain controller, and we'll see the various options when we create this backup job. So let's begin. Here we tell him we need to backup agent based backup, as I said before, and then next. Virtual based if you are working in a vSphere or in a virtual environment. Okay, here, but we are here simulating. Oh, just a minute. Here you can see we have 2 sections. Here is the domain controller hard disk. Okay, our hard disk is C and D, and this is the system state. We will back up this system state, and this is showing our domain controller hard disk. We have C and D. Okay, we have the C system and the D drive which contains our data. Okay, so here is the selection, or this is the drive, the hard disk of our first domain controller. We'll back up the system state and we'll back up a couple of folders from the D drive. Okay, and on the other half this contains the name of the backup job, the schedule, how this backup job will work. We will take it only on Friday once a week, once a week, and it will use any cartridge in any storage. We have, as I said before, we have 8 slots and it contains 8 tape drives, so it will use any one of these slots to record its data. As for the media set, it will keep the data for 4 weeks. What does it mean? It means that you will not be able to delete any data on any of the cartridges, okay, or the tape drives. At least 4 weeks have been 4 weeks have been until you record the first. For example, I have a tape drive and I record it, for example, on the first week of the month, and then at the end of the month I need to record another data on the same drive. Okay, it will not give me this flexibility until there is 4 weeks keeping this data. Okay, well, just I will say it when it comes. Okay, but just keep in mind that, for example, if you have a tape drive, for example, if you have recorded a DVD, for example, and this DVD contains the data, okay, so the BackupExec will not remove the data unless it is 4 weeks in age. Okay, it's like something, you know, in the event log. I'll tell you, I can just say it in another thing. Here we can see that, for example, as we said before, in the event log, the windows record the events, okay, until a certain time. Let's see it. I will show you all here in the windows. Okay, in the application properties, sorry, just a minute. Here, for example, the windows begin recording the logs. Okay, it's recording all of the events in the operating system until the log size reaches this size. Okay, it will begin deleting. Okay, and how it will begin deleting? It will begin deleting the oldest, then the first. As I said before, if you are, for example, recording from May until December, then the log reaches this side, it will begin deleting from the oldest record, which is in May, then blah blah blah. So this is the same concept here when you are working with the media set. It will keep the records, or will keep the data until 4 weeks. In the 5th week, it will begin deleting the old data and creating new one. Okay, for example, if you have a tape, you are working with a tape for 4 weeks. Okay, it does like this. It begins adding data. For example, the tape drive is 6 terabyte. Okay, it will begin adding data until two things. If the tape it's already filled, it will begin erasing the old data and creating taking recording another new data. But if, for example, the tape is not filled yet, but it has 4 weeks, it was working for 4 weeks, then it can begin removing these 4 weeks and creating new ones. Okay, so you have to keep the data for 4 weeks only. It's like a size. It's limitation. It's not limiting by size, but limiting by time. Okay, so the tape drive can only hold data for 4 weeks. I mean, for example, if you have a tape drive, you are recording every day, taking a backup every day for 4 weeks, then at the 5th week it will begin deleting the data on the tape drive. Okay, and I said before, you have also an option on the recording or the backup job to append. What you mean by append? That the tape drive is 6 tera. Every time it will take the data, it will add data until the tape is filled, or the space of the tape is filled, so it will begin erasing and creating or recording again from the start. But this is one option. And the other option, that you can erase the data when the data reaches a certain time limit, like 4 weeks, as I said before. So keep data set, it means it will keep the data for 4 weeks. Okay, so if you need to, for example, erase a tape and record again, you will not be able to do this until the 4 weeks duration has been gone, or has been added, or sorry, has been reached, or the tape drive itself it is filled. Okay, edit. So here we'll begin selecting the jobs. Okay, we'll begin selecting what we will backup. We will choose our system state for the first domain controller, and then in the D drive So now we will take the DHCP backup folder and the event logs. Okay, and then the transformers. This is the folder that contains all of my scripts. So I'll take it also in the backup job. So now I have already choose the selection or the backup selection, and then here we will edit this setting. Here first of all, let's describe this. Here the job, here is the name of the job, and there is the reoccurrence or the duration, or the which time you will take a backup every week, once a week at 11 p.m. okay. And the job template here, you can see it's incremental. What's the difference between, for example, there is, let me show you all, there is some type of backups, okay, the backup jobs, okay, backup job types. So here we have some types of backup, okay. Let me describe it in full. Okay, you can take a full backup, which means that you will backup the whole thing or the whole folders. For example, we have said before that we have choose a couple of folders and a couple of things, so we will take a full backup every time. You will take a full backup of the same folders every time, okay. You take a full backup, you mean I take the same folders as a backup every time. For example, here if you have for example, let's say that I am taking a backup of this folder. Let me have a little demonstration here. For example, I am telling the backup job to take a backup of this folder, okay, and all of its content every time. A full backup means that you will take the whole folders or the whole folder every time. He will take the same folder every time, okay. So this is a full backup, okay. Incremental backups, what does it mean? For example, if this folder I have, for example, deleted some of the subfolders from it, or I have added another folders, okay, the backup will only take the change, which means that it will only take the newly added subfolders. In this, he will backup only the new added subfolders in the folder, or he will remove a folder from the subfolders, okay, or remove the subfolders from the folder, okay. So the incremental, it means he will take only the change that happens in the folder, okay. So you need to have for this option to work, you need to have a full backup first. You need to take a full backup of this folder that I have, and then this folder, and then you can take the first job to be a full backup, to take a full backup of this folder, and then you can take incremental backups, okay. So you can just not every time to use the same space, or to free some space, or to not use, or not to get to waste your space on the same, or not to waste space, to reserve some space, or to work efficiently with the spaces, okay. So you need to have a full backup first of the folder, and then to have an incremental backup, okay. So differential backups, okay, it is similar to incremental, but it will be copy of all changes from the previous backup. However, each time it runs afterward, it will you have to copy data changes since the previous backup fall, okay. I will not use the differential backup. I will need only the incremental backups and the full backup, okay. This is the difference between full backup, it means the whole folder, it will be taken every time. Incremental backup, we will take only backup of the changes that happen to this folder. If another folder is added, or another subfolder is added to a folder, or a subfolder is removed from the folder, okay. So this is what it means, okay. Here I will not take an incremental backup. I will take a full backup, okay, every time, okay. So I not take just close it, not it will be a full backup. And then to the storage, it will keep the data. Here you go, here is the option, it will keep the data for 4 weeks. As I said before, you cannot you will take backup every day, okay, and you cannot erase the data on the tape until the data age is 4 weeks, okay. and there is an option to append to media. Okay, append to media, it means every time the tape drive is, for example, 6 terabyte, it will begin adding data every time until the tape is filled, so it will begin overwrite, it will erase the old data and begin working or recording new data again. So for the option, the best one is to use the append to media, overwrite if no appendable media is available. It says here, that says simply, it says that if, for example, you have a tape drive 6 tera, it will begin adding data until the whole tape drive. What's with append to media? It means adding data. It will not delete. It will, every time you take backup, it will add data until the tape is filled. So then it will begin erasing all data and creating new data. Okay, so this is means to append to media. Keep data for 4 weeks. For example, if you need, for example, the tape, you have a tape and you need to erase the data on it, you will not be able to erase the data on it until it's completely filled, or the data since of the recording, you have 4 weeks since recording the first data. Okay, I mean you have to keep the data for 4 weeks. It will not erase the data if you need until 4 weeks. 4 weeks is passed on this data, or the tape drive is filled, okay, or it is full. Okay, so this is the keep data for 4 weeks, and this option to use any of the 4 devices we have 4 devices, and every device contains 2 slots by the total of 8 tape drives. Okay, here, for example, if you have this option, if you have a couple of jobs, for example, this is the first job that we will create, and then we'll create another job. At the end, if you need him to eject the tape after the job completes, you can, for example, create the first job and the second job, and until you when you are creating the last backup job, then you can check this option to eject the tape. So after finishing all of the backup jobs, at the last backup job, he will eject the tape outside. In notification, you can see that for example, if you create a backup job and it is successful, from here you can tell him to send you an email to your IT administrator or whatsoever. You can add the emails of the IT administrators here, so every time the backup job is successful, he will send you an email, and if it is failed, I can also send you an email. This is from the notification here. We'll add recipients. Here you need to add the email of, here is the email server, the email address of the one that you will send an email to. I will not use it. Verify, will tell him that this option, after creating or after finish of the backup job, he will revise the data. It's something like he will see if the data it is corrupted or not, or it is recorded correctly or not. I prefer not to verify the data because this will make the backup job timing more high. Okay, because for example, if you are recording the data for 3 hours, then you will take another 3 hours to verify the data. Okay, so it will be very long. You can, after taking the backup job, you can make a backup test, okay, on these tapes every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, as you wish. But to make the backup job time less, you need to tell him do not verify the data. You can test the data later. Okay, after taking the backup job, you can, for example, test the backup data randomly on any week, on any month you need. Okay, you can make a plan for the verification of the data or the backup tapes. You can do this. Okay, I said before also, if you are using cloud if you are adapting backup to the cloud, okay, so this option also will not be good. Okay, here we leave everything as it is. Okay, the backup method is full backup. Okay, and then we have already done everything. We tell him okay. So after that we need to do a small test, so we'll something called test and edit credentials. As I said before, for the BackupExec to backup any remote server, for example, as I said before, the software is here, okay, but to backup something from a remote place or a remote location or a remote server, you need to have the agent installed on this server. We have done this before, and not only the agent, you need to give this agent a username that have full rights on the remote location. For example, as I said before, when I was setting up the BackupExec software, I have created an Active Directory user account and named it BackupExec. For the BackupExec Veritas 20% to use this Active Directory user to access remote servers, okay, to take backup of it. Okay, so here we will test to see if this username is working and the agent is working, both of them. So you need to make sure that they are both working. Okay, so the backup job to complete. So you can see it's successful. So the agent is working on the server, and the username or the Active Directory account that the BackupExec use, it's also working. Okay, so now we can tell him okay. Just a minute. And then we make a description. This is the name and the description. So now we have created our first backup job. We will create our second backup job, which will be the same to a tape drive on the domain controller number 2 itself. We will repeat the same process. You will go to check the backup selection. Here we will edit and choose what we need to backup. Here I will backup my here we can see that there is this green icon. It means that this data are sensitive, or the data on this drivers are sensitive. Why this icon appears? Because we are using, as I said before, I have this partition as a mirror. I have 2 hard disks and we have the mirror system on it, and I have the D drive, okay, 4 hard disk, and there is RAID 10 on it. Okay, so you can see that he has marked them as important because it's using the RAID 1 mirror and the RAID 10. Okay, as we can see here that F, it doesn't have this icon on it, okay, because this is a normal hard disk, but the BackupExec Veritas senses that if I am using the RAID 1 and RAID 10 on these 2 volumes, so this data is critical, so he has marked them as critical. Okay, and also the whole server, he is putting that the system state of this server is also critical because we are using the mirror on the operating system. So make sure that this green indicator means that this data is sensitive. And why it's sensitive? Because it senses when using the mirror 1 and mirror 10 that these data are important. So you will begin backup the DHCP. I have in a previous video back up the DHCP and the DNS. Here we back up the system state. So now we'll back up the DHCP backup and the DNS backup, okay, and the transformers folder and the backup event logs, okay. And also the data cube and biochips, this is the users and shares folders, okay, users and department shares, okay, for the Active Directory, okay. So here we are having a backup job, and this is the Microsoft virtualization experience template. We'll also back up this with me. Please defer to my previous videos to know what I'm talking about, because it's all related. And the system state. So now I have everything checked. So now we have created the selection, or we have told the backup job what to backup. Then we will edit the setting. Here we don't need an incremental backup, we will take a full backup with the same. We will backup only once a week, and we'll leave everything as it is, but we will just tell him also not to verify the job, okay. The same options. Notification for the verify, we tell him do not verify the data for this job. And we leave everything as it is. The method is full backup, okay. Test, we will test our credentials, okay, but this is normally because the server contains, it's already installed on the same server, but we just need to make sure to test the credentials every time we create a backup job, just to make sure that the BackupExec agent is working, okay. So now we have our two backup jobs up and running, and which will back them up to the tape drive, the virtual tape drive that we have created. I am doing all of this just to simulate how a production environment, or physical production, or an organizational production environment works with the tape drive, not because this is how it is done in a physical real world scenario. So now after we have finished the setup of the backup job and the virtual tape drive, we will return back to our ADSA, Active Directory Security Assessment. We will begin or complete working with the documentation. So here I'll begin working again with the Active Directory security assessment. Okay, I will go to the steps that I didn't work with still. So I can pass this quickly. Okay, let's pass it here. Okay, here is some recommendation from from HIUCA. That's to audit, how to audit your Active Directory. There is some group policy setting need to be changed, okay, to reflect more audit policy. And we mean by audit, we mean, for example, as I said before, if there is, for example, a user that have logged in or logged out, for example, this should be recorded in the event log, and this is called an audit log. Okay, so here he's telling you, or he's telling us, there is some recommendation for some audit policies. For example, audit means also if you have a folder and you need to record which users are accessing this folder, so this is also called an audit log. Okay, so he is suggesting some audit logs or audit settings, okay, to be done to to increase your audit efficiency, and also to have this also is as a best practice. Okay, oh, here I didn't see how I can get to this setting in the group policy, so I have searched the internet how to get this, but I was a little bit confused. But let me show you how I get it. Okay, go to the restricted policy. This is the policy that I have done before. Let's go here and get it from here. Sorry, I have to pass all of this. Just a minute. Sorry. Here is the audit policies that he is recommending for us to use. So let's go a little bit further. Okay, here this is another software that we will use. He is recommending, I will just discuss this section the next video, but here I am just downloading this software that we will use to work with this section in the document. Okay, I will work it later in another video, but here I'm just preparing myself to just download the software, and then we begin implement this section in the next video. And also there is another software in another section in the document for another subject that we will discuss, but I am just downloading the software now. Just tell him to clone or download. Download zip file. Then I put it in the transformers folder. So this is a section of the document. And this is the documentation. This is another thing that we will use also. It's called Forensics Active Directory SEL Investigation. We will have this documentation also. I put it in the transformers folder. Just guys, I am preparing myself to work with this section in the other or the next video, okay? So don't worry, we will discuss it later. So I am saving it as a PDF. This is a section of the PDF, okay? We will discuss it in the next video, and then there is another section also we will discuss it in the next video, but I'm just preparing myself, downloading the needed software so I can begin working immediately, okay? Okay, this is another just a minute. Okay, this is another software that we will use. Run Bloodhound. This is discover more escalation passes. I don't know what this, but we will discuss it later. I'm just downloading the software, and then I will read more and begin implementing this with you all. We can pass this quickly. Okay, you have already downloaded. Then we begin working with the advanced audit policies. I just need to pass it real quickly. Okay, now we can work with the, just a minute. Here we go. This is the advanced policy location. I didn't know where to get the advanced audit policy, but it was down at the middle. Okay, here it is. It's there. So I didn't know the location, so now I found it. So I begin configuring it. So okay, this is some audit policies to be done on the domain controller. He's saying that the default policy, just a minute, the default auditing policies of domain controller is not enough, so he's recommending some more audit policies to be done. As I said before, audit policy, it's like, for example, when a user logs in and logs out, this is recorded and this is called audit. Okay, the Windows is auditing the user. Or for example, you have a folder that you need to know who had accessed this folder. Of course, after enabling the auditing option on the folder, then every one accessing this folder will be recorded also, and this is an audit log. Okay, so now he's recommending some audit policies, so we will do it one by one. I don't know actually what this means, but this is the location on how to do it. So this is done. Okay, actually guys, you can do it by yourself, but this is the location. I have done this. Okay, I don't know what does this mean, but you can do it by yourself. It's very simple. Okay, I'm just can bypass all of this. Okay, this is all of the setting. Okay, he is recommending all of the setting here. Just do it. Okay, all of this. This is the setting, and if you need an explanation, you can go to the explanation tab and see what does this option means. Okay, so I am doing this. Okay, all of this is done. Okay, so here, okay, this is the end of our video. Okay, I will discuss later in the upcoming video more concerning this documentation for the Active Directory Security Assessment, and we will work more with, for example, security baseline for Microsoft. Until I see you all, I hope this video was informative for you, and would like you to thank you for viewing. Thank you.